The United Nations Human Rights Committee has issued a scathing appraisal of the harsh national security law imposed on Hong Kong by Beijing 2 years ago. It's the committee's first review of human rights in Hong Kong since the pro-democracy protests of 2019 and the crackdown that followed.
The committee was deeply concerned about the overly broad interpretation of Hong Kong's national security law, the NSL, which was passed by the National People's Congress of China without consultation with the Hong Kong public.
Under the national security law, the crimes of secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces carry punishment of up to life imprisonment. Since its implementation, it has been used to arrest over 200 protesters, journalists, and pro-democracy politicians. While Beijing is not party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Hong Kong is, since before its handover from Britain to China in 1997. As a signatory, its adherence to the treaty is subject to regular review.
The committee urged Hong Kong to take action to repeal the national security law and, in the interim, refrain from applying it.
But according to a US lawyer who was jailed in Hong Kong after a run-in with police during the 2019 protests, the rot runs far deeper than cases tried under the national security law.
Sedition is being used a lot. They interpret sedition to be included as a national security offense. That means that all of the rights and protections that are supposed to exist in the common law system are stripped away from sedition defendants. Their right to bail is stripped away. Their right to a jury trial is stripped away. Their right to an independent judge instead of a national security judge is stripped away. And that's why you now have this incredible humanitarian crisis of just hundreds of people who have been thrown in prisons without trial.
Bickett was deported after serving his sentence. He says there are thousands more cases like his in Hong Kong, outside the national security law, that resulted from abuses of a once vaunted judicial system.
Riot is being used in a vast way to throw people in prison. You've got people going to prison on weapons charges for having laser pointers. You have all kinds of crazy stuff and ways that they're sort of stretching these things. That is the vast majority of political prisoners in Hong Kong right now, and the vast majority of people waiting for trial in Hong Kong.
Despite the verdict from the UN, Hong Kong's highest officials remain powerless. Only Beijing can repeal the national security law it's imposed. But the hundreds of Hong Kongers who have been detained under this law are an illustration of how quickly a justice system can go from a regional exemplar to the subject of global censure. Ryan Hill Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.